We need to prepare the paperwork for withdrawal of life support. My brother's voice cut through the sterile hospital air like a blade. I stood 3 feet away, but he didn't look at me. He spoke directly to Dr. Hayes, nodding with the kind of calm authority that makes people assume you're in charge. The machines around Mom's bed kept humming their steady rhythm. Beep, hiss, beep, hiss. My chest tightened so hard I thought my ribs might crack. This wasn't a conversation. It was an announcement, and I had just been erased. My name is Vivian. I'm 32 years old, married, stable. The daughter everyone calls reliable, but somehow never asks for an opinion. Standing in that fluorescent hallway, I realized something that would change everything. This wasn't about Mom's comfort. This was about control. Dr. Hayes glanced at me briefly, then back to my brother. Mr. Lawson, we should discuss this with the entire family present. My sister agrees, he said smoothly. Don't you, Vivian? His smile was small, confident, the kind you wear when you've already decided the outcome. I opened my mouth, nothing came out. He took my silence as confirmation. See, we're aligned. Let's move forward quickly. Mom wouldn't want to suffer unnecessarily. The doctor hesitated, pen hovering over his clipboard. Something flickered across his face. Doubt, maybe, but he nodded. I'll have the social worker bring the forms. My brother squeezed my shoulder as he walked past. It's the right thing, Viv, you'll see. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I stood perfectly still and let them think I agreed. Because in that moment I understood something crucial. Silence can be a weapon. If I exploded now, I'd be dismissed as emotional, hysterical, unable to handle the situation. They'd use my grief against me. So I stayed quiet. I watched my brother shake hands with the doctor. I watched him check his phone, already moving on to the next task on his mental checklist. And I made a decision. I would survive this moment so I could outlast it. I needed time. Time to think. Time to understand what was really happening. Time to fight back. That night, alone in my car in the hospital parking lot, I whispered the title out loud. My brother told the doctor to turn off my mother's life support, and he wasn't ready for what happened next. The words felt like a promise, because what happened next wasn't going to be what he expected. It was going to be what I decided. I pulled out my phone and started taking notes. Everything I could remember. Every word, every look, every detail. If this was going to be a fight, I needed a record, and I was going to build one he'd never see coming. Let me tell you who I am, really am, not just the version my family sees. I'm Vivian Crawley. Married to a kind man named Joel who works in IT and never raises his voice. We have a small house, 2 cats, and a life that looks boring from the outside. I work in medical billing. I know insurance codes, hospital protocols, and policy language better than most administrators. My family thinks I'm gentle, passive. The peacekeeper who bends so everyone else can stand tall. They're wrong. I'm just patient, and patience, I was learning, is its own kind of power. The pattern had been there my whole life. I just hadn't named it until now. When I was 12, I wanted to take piano lessons. My brother said they were a waste of money. Dad agreed with him. I took up jogging instead. Free, invisible, mine. When I graduated college, I got a job offer across the country. My brother said Mom would be devastated if I left. I stayed. He moved to Chicago 6 months later. Everyone called it ambition. When Dad died 3 years ago, my brother handled the funeral arrangements. I wasn't asked. I was told. You're so good at going with the flow, Viv, he'd said, patting my hand like I was a child. I went with the flow. Until the flow tried to drown my mother. 2 days after the hallway conversation, I sat with Mom during visiting hours. She looked small under the white hospital sheets. Her breathing was assisted, but steady. The stroke had been severe, yes, but she wasn't dying. Not yet, not urgently. A nurse came in to check her vitals. I asked, has there been any change? Any decline? She looked at the monitors. Actually, her numbers have stabilized. Blood pressure's better than yesterday. So there's no immediate medical crisis? No, she's stable. I thanked her and made a note on my phone. Stable, not terminal, not urgent. So why was my brother rushing? I started digging. That night, I called the hospital administration and asked for copies of Mom's medical records. They said family members could request them, but it would take a few days. That's fine, I said. I'll wait. Then I called the patient advocate's office and asked about advance directives. Did Mom have a living will on file? A healthcare proxy? The woman on the phone put me on hold. When she came back, her voice was careful. There's a note in the file from last year. It was flagged for review but never escalated. My pulse quickened. What kind of note? I can't discuss details over the phone, but you should request the full file. I thanked her and hung up. Flagged, but never escalated. Why? Joel found me at the kitchen table at midnight, surrounded by printouts of hospital policies. Viv, he said gently, sitting beside me. You need to sleep. I need to understand what's happening. He didn't argue. He just squeezed my hand and sat with me in the quiet. Joel has always been my anchor. He doesn't try to fix things or tell me what to feel. He just trusts me. And right now that trust was the only thing keeping me steady. Do you think I'm crazy? I asked. No, he said. I think you're right to ask questions. That was all I needed to hear. I spent the next 3 days learning everything I could about end-of-life protocols. I read policy manuals. I studied patient rights documentation. I learned the language of ethics committees, advanced directives, and shared decision-making. I wasn't arguing with feelings anymore. I was building a case with facts. And facts, I was discovering, had sharp edges. The hospital required informed consent from all immediate family members for withdrawal of life support unless there was a clear legal proxy or advance directive naming a single decision-maker. My brother wasn't named, neither was I, which meant we were supposed to decide together. But he'd never asked me. I requested an ethics consult. I did it in writing, through the patient advocate's office, and I kept a copy of the email. The subject line was simple: request for ethics review regarding end-of-life decision-making for patient Eleanor Lawson. I didn't accuse anyone. I didn't get emotional. I just asked for a formal review to ensure all protocols were being followed. When my brother found out, he called me immediately. "What the hell are you doing?" he snapped. "Making sure we follow the process," I said calmly. "This is ridiculous, Vivian. You're being dramatic." "I'm being thorough." He hung up on me. 2 hours later, he left me a voicemail. I saved it. The voicemail was everything I needed. "Vivian, this is getting out of hand. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Mom is suffering, and you're dragging this out because you can't handle the reality. I'm trying to do the right thing here, and you're acting like I'm some kind of villain. Grow up. Let her go." His tone was condescending, dismissive, angry. I played it 3 times, taking notes on the exact words he used. "You're dragging this out. You can't handle reality. Let her go." Not we. Not us. Not our mother. Let her go. As if I were the only one standing in his way. I forwarded the voicemail to my personal email. Then I forwarded it to Joel with a single word: evidence. The ethics consult triggered a secondary medical review. A neurologist I'd never met came in to examine Mom. He spent 40 minutes reviewing her scans, her charts, her reflexes. When he finished, he spoke to both my brother and me in the hallway. "Mrs. Lawson's condition is serious," he said. "But it's not immediately terminal. There's no acute deterioration that would necessitate urgent withdrawal of care." My brother's jaw tightened, "But she's not getting better. Recovery from a severe stroke takes time, weeks, sometimes months. Rushing a decision at this stage isn't medically indicated." The doctor left. My brother stared at me. "You're doing this on purpose," he said quietly. "I'm doing what's right," I replied. He walked away without another word, and I knew I'd just cracked his timeline. A social worker named Ms. Brennan pulled me aside the next day. "I need to tell you something," she said, glancing around to make sure we were alone. "What is it?" "Last week, your mother had a lucid window. It was brief, maybe 10 minutes, but she was responsive. She asked for you specifically." My breath caught. "She asked for me?" Miss Brennan nodded. "She said your name twice. I documented it in the file." "Did my brother know?" "He wasn't here that day." I thanked her, my hands trembling. Mom had asked for me. Not him. Me. That mattered. That changed everything. The flag note finally surfaced. It was buried in Mom's medical file from a year ago, after a routine checkup. She'd filled out an advance directive preference form during a wellness visit. The form asked, in the event of serious illness, who should be involved in healthcare decisions. Mom had written, both children, shared decision-making. Not one, both. The note had been flagged for legal review but never followed up on because Mom hadn't completed the full legal proxy paperwork. But the intent was clear. She wanted us to decide together. My brother had known this, or should have. But he'd moved forward anyway, solo, as if my voice didn't exist. I made 3 copies of that note. My brother started pushing harder. He called the doctor daily. He demanded meetings with the hospital administrators. He threatened to transfer Mom to another facility if they didn't respect the family's wishes. But now the hospital was hesitant. The ethics consult was pending. The neurologist's report contradicted the urgency. The social worker's notes documented Mom's request for me, and I had filed everything in writing. His authority, the unearned, unquestioned authority he'd always assumed, was cracking. And he didn't know how to handle it. Impatience makes people sloppy. I was counting on that. The ethics committee meeting was scheduled for the following Tuesday. It would include Dr. Hayes, the neurologist, Ms. Brennan, a hospital administrator, my brother, and me. I prepared like I was going to trial. I printed copies of the advance directive note. I printed the neurologist's report. I printed the voicemail transcript. I highlighted key sections in yellow. When the meeting began, my brother spoke first. He was calm, articulate, persuasive. My mother wouldn't want to live like this. She was vibrant, independent. This isn't living, it's prolonging suffering. Everyone nodded sympathetically. Then it was my turn. I spoke softly, respectfully, with citations. I agree that Mom valued independence, but she also valued informed decisions. This document shows she wanted shared decision-making. This report shows no urgent medical crisis, and this recording shows my brother has been making unilateral decisions without consulting me. I played the voicemail. The room went silent. The voicemail changed everything. You could hear it in his voice. The condescension, the dismissal, the assumption that my input didn't matter. The administrator's expression shifted. Dr. Hayes looked uncomfortable. The neurologist took notes. My brother's face went pale. That was taken out of context, he said quickly. What context? I asked. He didn't answer. The committee chair cleared her throat. We'll need to review all documentation and reconvene. In the meantime, no changes will be made to Mrs. Lawson's care plan. My brother stood abruptly. This is absurd. Mr. Lawson, the chair said firmly, please sit down. He sat, but his hands were shaking. The order to withdraw life support was officially halted. Temporarily, they said, pending full review. But temporary was enough. My brother had lost control of the timeline, and without the timeline, his entire plan unraveled. He called me that night, furious. You're going to regret this, Vivian. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll have tried. He hung up. I didn't sleep that night, but I didn't regret it either. 3 days later, something else surfaced. Ms. Brennan called me privately. There's something you should know. Your brother submitted paperwork to access your mother's bank accounts 2 weeks ago, contingent on her being declared incapacitated. My stomach dropped. He what? The bank flagged it because she wasn't legally incapacitated yet. But the request was time-sensitive. If life support had been withdrawn and she'd passed, the contingency would have been moot. I sat down hard. This wasn't about mercy. It was about money and timing. Timing he no longer controlled. The ethics committee reconvened. This time, they had the financial records. They had the timeline. They had the voicemail, the advance directive, and the neurologist's report. The chair delivered the decision. Given the documented preference for shared decision-making, the lack of urgent medical necessity, and concerns about external motivations, we are reassigning healthcare authority to a collaborative model. Both siblings must agree on any major care decisions going forward. Unilateral actions are no longer permitted. My brother's face went red. This is final, the chair said. Any violations will result in removal of your decision-making authority entirely. He looked at me like I'd betrayed him. But I hadn't betrayed him. I just stopped letting him erase me. Over the next 2 weeks, everything shifted. My brother was no longer allowed in the room during medical reviews unless I was present. The staff stopped deferring to him automatically. Every decision required both signatures. He hated it. But he had no choice. The power he'd assumed was his by default had been taken away, not by force, but by process. And process, I'd learned, doesn't care about who's louder. It cares about who's right. 4 weeks after that fluorescent hallway conversation, the ethics board issued their final ruling. No withdrawal of life support will proceed without full compliance with documented patient preferences, clear medical necessity, and unanimous family agreement. Multiple protocol violations have been noted in this case and will be included in Mr. Lawson's file. Noted. Not punished, not dramatized, just noted. But notes become part of records. And records follow you. My brother would never have unquestioned authority in a hospital again. Not with Mom, not with anyone. 6 weeks later, Mom was transferred to a rehabilitation facility. Her recovery was slow. She might never be the same. But she was alive, and she was still fighting. My brother stopped visiting. He sent flowers once with a card that said, "Thinking of you." He didn't call me, didn't apologize, didn't acknowledge what had happened. But I didn't need him to. I'd already won. Not because I destroyed him, I protected her. And myself. I stood in Mom's new room holding her hand. She couldn't speak yet, but when I squeezed her fingers, she squeezed back. That was enough. I walked out of that facility without looking back at the past, without needing applause or validation. Because I'd learned something in those terrible weeks. Power doesn't belong to the person who speaks first or loudest. It belongs to the person who prepares, who listens, who documents, who stays calm when everyone else expects you to break. My brother thought silence meant surrender. He was wrong. Sometimes silence is strategy, and strategy in the end is what saves you.